You hear me okay? Hey everyone, I'm Meg. I'm here with Matt Hips. He's actually a professor of political science at Dalton State. He has agreed to moderate this evening, which is awesome. He's a great guy. He laughs at all of my jokes, which is really important to me. And yeah, so Matt, thank you so much for being here. Um,
Thank you for
that's
having
great.
me. All
Sorry,
right.
Matt.
So, just a reminder to folks, make sure that you are posting your questions, and we'll do our best to make sure that we get to every single one of them. So, let's go ahead and get started with our first question. So, Meg, could you tell us all a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, and many of you probably already know me. I know I've spent the last month calling many of you, and I've met many of you even prior to that. But my name is Meg Gorman. I'm running for Congress here in Tennessee's 3rd District. So, I was raised in East Tennessee. I was brought up in Chattanooga in a family who taught me the importance and value of voting, recycling, and donating blood. I've spent my whole adult life working with people, working in the service industry. I decided to make that a professional career. And I went to school. I got my degree in hospitality and tourism. I got that from UT. I moved back to Chattanooga and I still work in the industry now. Because of that, I have found myself as an essential worker. And that's allowed me to hear a lot of what's top of mind for people right now. Even prior to that, though, seeing what's going on in the service industry, seeing servers, seeing dishwashers, seeing really people just across the board, people working in a city like Chattanooga where tourism is hugely important for the economy and people aren't able to make ends meet. And that's a serious issue. So seeing things like that throughout my adult life and seeing that problem just get worse and worse and worse made me realize that something needs to change. And now with everything else that's been happening, that's just becoming more and more apparent. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm running.
Excellent. All right. So we'll go ahead and start with our first question, and it's in the realm of healthcare. So my number one priority is healthcare. As long as Medicaid expansion is left up to the states, Tennesseans are out of luck. Additionally, the Affordable Care Exchanges are slowly being gutted in our state. What are your plans to make healthcare accessible, considering the hurdles Tennesseans face?
I think the biggest hurdle we have is that we're not all viewing healthcare as a human right, and I believe it is just that. I believe that we all have the right to healthcare, and I support Medicare for all. I support a single payer system. I think that the way that we're doing it right now isn't working. And I think we need to take care of people first and put people first in order to move forward. And that is a very basic first step for us to take.
Excellent. The next question comes from Ian, and his question is Meg, what are the biggest challenges faced by constituents in the most rural parts of your district? And what are your plans to address them? He also wants you to know that you have killer branding and intro music.
Oh, well, I will first say, and I should have put this in the beginning, but Chris Moreland is the guy to thank for a lot of this, really for all of the production. He's in the background. Maybe at some point he'll come on screen and you can say hi to him. But he is a fantastic human being who, for reasons unknown to me, decided early on that he wanted to do this and lead us through these streams. And just kidding about that. I mean, he's made it clear that he really believes in this campaign, but he has been so generous with his time and his talent, and he deserves a huge shout out and a thank you. So thank you, Chris. And yes, his taste is excellent. He also laughs at all my jokes. So, um, but yeah, for our rural communities, and especially with this district the way it is, in that hourglass shape going all the way up north, we do have a lot of rural communities. And I think education and healthcare are hugely difficult to access. And I'm talking about reliable um, healthcare and solid education. Those are difficult to access in those rural communities. I also think that um, internet internet access, especially with learning being online right now, it is so difficult to have reliable internet access where students can actually do their work. They can actually engage and have the resources they need with everything online. Many of these rural communities are just being left out. So I think all of those really work together and rely on one another very heavily. But I think that those are three of the major issues facing our rural communities. Yeah, really a lack of that access to healthcare, quality education, and internet.
Excellent. So, Rachel notes that today the Supreme Court of the United States gave us an unexpected victory for reproductive rights by overturning an anti abortion law in Louisiana. Tennessee legislators recently passed a super restrictive abortion bill in the middle of the night. As a Congresswoman, what will you do to protect the right to choose for Tennesseans?
Well, I'll start by really fighting for the the big parts that we don't talk about as much, which are maybe we do reproductive health care, sex education, not just abstinence only, but true scientific, factual sex education in schools, um, access to free and safe contraception. Those are all hugely important. And I think that those also play a role because women have the right to choose. Women and their positions have the right to make the decision that is best for that woman. And that is situational, and that should be trusted to those two parties to make that decision.
All right. Anita would like to know if you support Joe Biden's platform other than Medicare for All, which may not fly in a red state.
I do support Joe Biden. I will be voting for Joe Biden. I don't necessarily align with every every policy that one candidate has, and that includes Joe, that includes Bernie, that includes Elizabeth Warren. But I think that Joe is obviously the choice for all of us who want change. I think that he is focused on moving this country forward, and that is what I want to see.
Excellent. So, what are your thoughts on a new Green New Deal type of plan, and how would you plan on bringing those types of jobs to East Tennessee?
Well, I think that there's a lot that we can do, really with infrastructure, in particular in this area. I think providing providing those jobs to those people, looking at the areas that are going to be affected most. I do support Green New Deal. I think that it is a very bold strategy. I think, or a very bold plan, and I support that. And I think we need to be prepared to find some obstacles along the way. But I think that we need to um, take those steps, and we need to be bold in our approach. So I think it's really about getting creative, talking about what what needs to be done and how we can modify our current approach to make sure that Tennesseans aren't left without jobs simply because we are moving towards a green future. And so, looking at those individual groups, those individual companies, those individual industries where people may be displaced, and taking that extra time and consideration to ensure that those people are accounted for, those people are taken care of, and that they are able to use their skills to help be a part of this revolution.
Awesome. So let's shift modes, if you don't mind, and sort of talk about a broad topic, but systemic racism. So we've seen a ton of attention with all the events that have happened across the country lately, with the national and even international protests, and systematic racism has become a conversation that's being had around water coolers, virtually, of course, in homes and in communities all across the country. So, just sort of me and you just sort of talking here and talking to the folks. What what are sort of your thoughts in this area? What do you think we need to do to address issues of systemic racism? And that can be a starting point for us.
I mean that there's a lot. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Um, I think on a very broad level, we need to make sure that the people who are in positions of power, people who represent our country, those people are setting an example and leading um, in in a way that is addressing the real issues that we have, like systemic racism. This is real. It affects people every single day and has been for years and years and years and years and years. Um, and it has to stop. And we can't allow people to sit in office who are turning a blind eye, who are pretending it doesn't exist or saying it's not as bad as we make it out to be, because it is. It's awful. Um, and we can't allow people like that to be in positions where they are supposed to be representing um, everyone. But on a more specific level, I guess I would say housing, I think, is hugely important. Criminal justice reform, I think, is hugely important. Ending cash bail, that's something I think we need to do. 10 years ago, we need to end cash bail. We need to make sure that for profit prisons are a thing of the past. We need to focus on rehabilitation when we're talking about substance abuse or addiction. We need to we need to focus on rehabilitation whenever possible and not use prisons and jails as a way to hold people simply because they can't make bail or because they, had a, a minor drug charge. I think that those are very basic things that disproportionately affect our African American populations here, our Black Americans. They also affect our Latinx communities. I think we need to immediately address that and fix it.
So, kind of building off of that, you mentioned sort of minor drug charges. So, what are your thoughts on legalizing marijuana? Do you
I
think that would help?
I fully support the legalization of marijuana, recreational use as well as medical, obviously. But I also support the decriminalization of individual non-violent drug use. If someone is using a drug, if someone, is not hurting anyone, if someone has an amount intended for their own consumption, or if they are um, using that themselves, to me, that is not something that needs to be treated as a crime. I think we need to do what we can to offer services to those people to ensure that they have what they need to be able to fight any sort of addictions they may have. But as far as marijuana, I don't know why we're still having this debate. I mean, half the country think is on board, and we're getting there. But at this point, I think we need to just accept, you know it's okay to have been wrong in the past, and this is something we can do, and I think it's something we need to do now. And I do think that would help.
Okay, so shifting to a subject that's obviously heavy on everyone's mind also is the coronavirus pandemic that we are dealing with both nationally and internationally. So, Ian would like to know if you think that the first COVID stimulus was the right solution and what type of stimulus is needed, if any, as a second round.
I think that this pandemic, it's it is hitting in waves. It's hitting states in waves, but it is affecting everyone. It's affecting the economy, and I think that one stimulus check isn't going to fix things. I think that two checks aren't going to fix things. I think that we need to provide protections for people who are in serious risk of losing their homes, people who are in serious risk of being out of a job for a while. We need to extend that unemployment. We need to provide protections for renters. We need to provide protections for borrowers. We need to provide protections for people who are having to choose between making payments on loans or towards their utilities or any of these items while they're put out of a job right now. So I think the approach is entirely wrong. I feel like I I have to say I guess it's better than nothing at all, but it feels pretty close to nothing at all, frankly.
So, I think Corey feels that frustration, and he notes that there's unfortunately more inaction than action around COVID 19. So, what do you think? And I know that you mentioned a few things just before this, but what types of things do you think that the federal government should be prioritizing in this moment?
I really think that power needs to be given on the local level, so that individual cities can can put in place safety measures for their cities or for counties. And I know that's something Mayor Burke here in Chattanooga has had trouble with. He's been trying to find a way to mandate people wearing face coverings in public, and he hasn't been able to, unless it's happened, in the last what time, like last half hour. Um, but I think that's a really basic one where we're seeing spikes. And again, when we have someone who's in charge and we have people who are in charge and they have the public trust, and that is something that they're abusing and pretending that everything is okay, that people don't need to be wearing masks, that this isn't a big deal. That's incredibly dangerous because that is the example that's being set. So I think that's a big one. It's a really simple one. It is incredibly simple, and we are neglecting to do that.
All right, thank you. So, Abigail would like to know what your stance on nuclear power or energy is.
So that's been talked about quite a bit, and I think that ideally, in the long run, um, we are entirely green. I think that in order to get there safely and sustainably and not backslide, I do think that we will need to rely some on nuclear. And I think I think that is important to accept that yes, ideally we would like to move away from that entirely, but I see that as a stepping stone to get to where we want to be in a way that is actually sustainable. It's something that we know that we can already do, and I see that as a means to an end.
Excellent. So, Corey's curious, are there any books, podcasts, or other types of media that have really influenced your perspective on things?
Not maybe not politically. um, I do listen to the Daily from the New York Times every day, and I listen to Pod Save America, and maybe not every day, but pretty frequently. Those two I really enjoy quite a bit. This book is in no way, shape, or form political, um, but there is a parallel here. There's a book called Stiff by Mary Roach, and it is about the uh, the life of a human body um, once someone has donated their body to science. And she is I think she was a travel journalist prior, and she said by like her third trip to Antarctica, she got really bored and thought, I want to do something different. I want to learn something entirely new. And so she started interviewing people all around the country, and she has a chapter on each different thing and the use for these cadavers and how science has benefited from people donating their bodies to science. And it's really interesting. I would highly recommend it, but it's also interesting to hear her openness to an idea or to something new and actually seeking that out and wanting to explore something that she was totally unfamiliar with and even somewhat uncomfortable with, and how it affected her.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you one of the more hard hitting questions of the entire night.
Oh
And
my gosh.
so I hope that you're ready for
I
this.
don't know if I am.
Are you a cat or a dog person?
I can't do that. I have one of each and they can hear me. So I can't do, they're within earshot. I guarantee it. Um, I had the cat first. I I like them both. The dog's more snuggly. I just like animals. I mean, anything that will allow me to pet it, I'll pet it. I love animals. I'm not a big fan of spiders, but I love other animals. I'm cool with snakes, you name it. I also have a bunny.
You have a bunny.
I have a
That's
bunny.
a pretty unique pet.
Yeah, her name's Bunny.
Your bunny's name is Bunny.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
She's a
good.
rescue bunny. I've had her for 9 years. I got her when I was in Knoxville, in school at UT.
I have a son. We just named him Son, so I feel you on that.
They should hang out sometime.
Definitely, definitely. We'll make sure that we set that up. It'll be a beautiful virtual meeting. All right. So I think that that now that we've tackled that amazingly sort of poignant and important point, that we'll sort of shift back to a topic that does happen to be on folks' minds and is pretty prescient in both, in the southern states, and that's sort of Confederate statues and monuments. So we've seen a lot of conversation around the the folks who are arguing that there's a necessity for Confederate monuments and that we need them to be able to remember history, and other folks who argue that they are a dark reminder of times past that were not so great for lots of different groups of people. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on sort of the conversations surrounding these Confederate
Sure.
monuments.
So if Confederate monuments are a necessity, then I don't even know where to go from there. Like that's something I don't even know how to process. Healthcare is a necessity. Um, Shelter is a necessity. Confederate monuments are in no way, shape, or form necessities, and I think that they should be removed. I think that if they are causing pain, if they are causing um, discomfort, if frankly, I think if there's any question about it, I think that those should be removed. I think that we do not need monuments in order to remember history for people who choose to put it that way. If that's really what it takes for people to remember history, then there are probably much larger issues than Confederate monuments. But yeah, absolutely. I feel very, very strongly about that. There's so many people who have contributed to society who are just outstanding citizens who are wonderful, ethical, impactful human beings um, who who could have statues in their places. And I don't see why this is even a discussion with people. I really don't. We should remove them.
Okay, so sort of in a similar vein, Aaron would like to chat about sort of your thoughts on defunding the police and using those funds for social programs that help the less fortunate in our communities. Do you believe that defunding the police would affect our crime rates?
Well, I think that as far as defunding the police goes, we need to be clear about what we mean, because I do think that there are different meanings depending on who you ask. But I'm with the group who feels that defunding doesn't mean getting rid of law enforcement entirely. I think that there is a place in communities for law enforcement, but I think that there's a much larger need for crisis intervention, for community outreach, for social work, for services. I I feel that those areas are far greater than law enforcement. Those areas are needed so much more than law enforcement. We don't need to respond to someone experiencing homelessness with a gun. We don't need to respond to someone experiencing a mental health crisis with a gun. And our officers aren't trained for all of these unique situations. They are trained to respond um, in a way that approaches things as a threat. And we really don't need that. We don't need that in our communities. We don't need regular people being treated as if they're threats. So do think that we need to put money into social programs. I think we need to boost our communities through that. And I think that we will inherently see lower crime rates because of that. Because instead of allowing people to, you know, to fall behind, allowing people, to be in positions that they should never have to be in, and then treating them as threats, we're able to build up those communities, to support communities with education, with social work, with community building, really all of it. We can do that and reduce crime along the way.
Awesome. That's a great answer. So let's. I have a question about sort of organization in the workplace and how folks can organize in the workplace. So Cynthia is curious if there's anything that you believe could be done at a federal level to make it easier for workers to organize in their workplaces.
I'm not as familiar with with the things that are making it difficult on a federal level, but I do think that we need to address the fact that if people want to organize, there's a reason. So if companies are focused on preventing employees from organizing, they should improve their workplaces. They should improve pay. They should improve benefits. Those are the ways where they can keep people from organizing is by providing people with the things that they organize in order to get. So I do think that we need to see that as um, kind of a larger issue, which is we have people who are needing to organize everywhere, all these different companies, and the common factors are workplace conditions, pay, safety, benefits, all of these things. And so if we can create standards for those and uphold those, then we can make it where people don't necessarily have to even go to that effort to have those protections. But absolutely, people should be supported in organizing. So they should have their voices heard. And I think we do need to have strong protections to ensure that there is no retaliation because those protections don't exist. And that might be what she's asking about. Those protections don't exist. And so, yes, if someone's trying to unionize and starting that organization within the workplace, those people should be protected against termination or retaliation. Absolutely.
Excellent. So the next question is sort of a question about the challenge of running against an incumbent. And so for a lot of folks, you know, the incumbent has name recognition and there's this sort of belief that, well, yeah, I mean, they've done a good job. Their things are sort of fine. So for you, what do you say to that voter who may not know a lot about sort of your vision for the district? So could you kind of share with us sort of your vision for the district or what you believe is sort of lacking, in this moment that you can help provide leadership towards?
Well, I think that's just it is we're lacking leadership. We're lacking representation. We're lacking a voice that mirrors our own. We have someone who is not only not representing us, but not listening to us. He is known for actively avoiding his constituents. I mean, he will avoid any interaction that he can possibly avoid, and that doesn't seem to bother him. And to me, that is such an essential part of the job, and that so much of it is listening and being willing to hear people and hear what they need, and being willing to look critically at your own your own voting record, look critically at your own stances, your own beliefs, and say, does this reflect the needs of my constituents? Does this reflect their best interests? And I that's clearly not happening. So I think what we need right now is representation that is by the people for the people. We need someone who is willing to fight, someone who is happy to say, I'm not going to accept corporate PAC money. I'm not going to allow lobbyists to buy my vote. Those things are off the table. We need someone with integrity. We need someone with character. We need someone who will not lie to us or mislead us. We need someone who won't, take more than $30,000 from private prisons and private prison companies um, while being on the subcommittee, the chair of the subcommittee that's in charge of budgeting for Homeland Security. That's big. And that's happening right now. So I think we are lacking real representation, and we just need someone who's going to listen and who's going to reflect those voices in the votes that happen.
So to kind of follow up on that, given your feelings on the lack of representation that's sort of happening right now, are you willing to debate Chuck Fleischman?
I would be thrilled. I would be absolutely thrilled to debate Chuck Fleischman. Um, if anyone out there knows a way to get him to debate, um, you know, I'm all ears. I'm all ears because I know historically that has been one of the most difficult things for candidates running against Chuck is getting him to show up in public. It is very difficult. I heard from a candidate who ran twice, and she said she was only able to get him to debate by finding a clip of him saying that he would debate a challenger, and he was referring to a Republican challenger in the primary. But she got that clip and she sent a certified letter to him quoting him saying that he would debate a challenger, and she also sent that to all the major media outlets in the area. That is the only way she got him to debate. So I'm prepared to have to fight hard for that debate, but I would love the opportunity.
Well, I hope he takes you up on that. So I'm gonna pivot about as much as one can pivot, and I have to ask this question because it's been weighing on me, and so I am an aficionado of Twitter, and I read people's bios, and you mentioned that you are very skilled at poorly timed jokes. And so I'm hoping that you could share one of your best jokes that you have.
Oh, I mean, I have a lot, and I don't know if I can get the timing down quite right as far as making it especially bad. If you're just looking for a bad joke, I know Chris, like I said, the guy behind the scenes here, he's actually looking at me. I can see him on my feed, and he's thinking about the joke that I told that was really, really funny, where he said that he was going to be filtering out all foul language, or I think it was all foul content. And I said, yeah, make sure not to get any chickens or ducks in there. And that was really good. And no one appreciated. I'm really glad you laughed because no one else laughed. And there were like 4 people in there.
Well, I will use that tonight when I'm putting
Good.
kids to bed, and I feel very strongly like they'll think that I'm funny, and I will 100% give you credit.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Chris, and Chris still isn't laughing right now, which is pretty upsetting.
Sometimes people are laughing on the inside
I
just
don't
so
think
much, it's
so.
hard to let it out.
No, he's shaking his head. He's not laughing on the inside.
So to sort of to shift back to sort of who you are and your story, Lucy is curious what inspired you to ultimately decide to run for office.
Really just wanting real meaningful change. I kind of joked about it earlier. I really did grow up in a family where, like part of the Saturday routine was going to the recycling center and sorting out all the glass. And that's when I was a kid. And that's at the time, we were the only family who I really knew who took the time to recycle because they didn't have curbside pickup. And that was normal. And I would go donate blood with my dad, and we would do these things up into my adulthood. And my parents just always taught me that if you see something wrong, it's your responsibility to do what you can to fix it. And it's this idea of kind of collective success. We're all in this together. If you see a can on the ground, you pick it up and you put it in the recycling bin. Um, you all work together towards this common goal. And so seeing this, seeing this need and feeling like we really needed someone who was running for the right reasons, someone who loves people, someone who is willing to be wrong, someone who's willing to say, I don't know, someone who's not going to lie to the people um, in their communities. Those are all really important to me. And I thought, I can do that. I want to do that. I love people. I work with people all day long. I have my whole adult life. Nothing makes me happier than helping people. And that's what public service should be. It should be about helping people. It should be about improving the lives of other human beings and doing everything you can. And there is no ask too small. And I believe in that. And that's why I'm running. I I wanted to see change, and I decided that would be me.
That's awesome. So Aaron would like to know what your thoughts are on Trump trying to kill Obamacare. And are there any thoughts about how we can improve upon it? Obviously, it's not a perfect system, but what are some things that you think that could be done to build upon or sort of deal with some of the challenges to Obamacare?
Yeah. I would like to say that I'm surprised by what Trump tried to do. I am not, and I think it's especially um, heartless given the state that we're in right now. That's not something that's not something that should be a focus right now. Doing anything to break that down, that seems very malicious, actually. But like I said earlier, I really support um, healthcare for all, Medicare for all. I think that healthcare is a human right, and I would like to see us move to a single payer system. I would like to see us move into a system where healthcare really truly is available for everyone. It's not opting in. It is you you have this right. Here is your right. This is provided. Here it is, and that's it. I think that's where we need to be, and we're lacking. And I think anything short of doing that, I even though it may be a step in the right direction, I think that until we get to the point where every person really truly does have access to healthcare, um, and we see it as a human right, we're not where we need to be.
All right, well, Meg, I know that you're coming up on a really important fundraising deadline tomorrow. And so folks who are listening want to know how they can donate to your campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. We have our Act Blue set up, and we have that link actually at the top of our Twitter. We have it on Facebook. We also have it on the website, which is just meg2020.com. And on the website, it's in the upper right hand corner. And you can do Act Blue. If you prefer to send a check, you can send a check to 4668. It's P.O. Box 4668 in Chattanooga, Tennessee 37405. And that address is also on the website. And then for social media, all of those handles are Meg number four Congress. So Meg for Congress. And that's on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And all three of those also have that link available for Act Blue. So there are those. And if you're interested in volunteering, I know a lot of people are at home right now. I know Chris has talked about the fact that he's able to take on quite a bit more, and he has a 2-year-old running around in the background, but he's still helping us out with the streams here. If you're like Chris and you want to help volunteer, and you're at home, you can also do some phone banking. We've had a lot of volunteers show up who are really excited, and we have a strong group starting out this week. So we're really excited about that. So if you want to join that group, and if you want to help this fight, then please let us know. And you can reach out on our website. We have a contact on there where you can let us know if you're interested in volunteering, and if there's anything else that you want to offer. If you want to give feedback, if you want to do photography, if you want to help out on social media, if you want to help organize events, whatever it may be, feel free to let us know. This is about the communities here. not just me. So we're really all in this together. It really is a grassroots campaign and a movement. And in this fundraising deadline that we're on, this is going to show Chuck, this is going to show really everyone here how big this movement is, not just here, but within our country to turn these red seats blue.
Excellent. Meg2020.com just sort of rolls off the tongue, so that's an easy one to remember. So Ramsey's curious as to what your stance is on student debt relief.
I would love to see student debt cancel or student loans done for. I much like healthcare, I think that we need to embrace education as a vital part of our growth and development. And I think that when we have people who have access to higher education, those people can do what they want to do and not be bogged down by these student loans or by really having to balance, working multiple jobs. I went to a demonstration at UTC the other day, and I heard one of the students speak about having to hold down 3 jobs just so she could attend UTC, and that's wild to think about. I mean, that how are you supposed to study? How are you supposed to actually absorb what you are going to school for when you are trying to work 3 jobs while attending school? That's insane. So I think that we need a clean slate. I think that we need to really do that, and we need to look at 2-year and 4-year programs. We need to look at trade schools. We need to look at the fact that there are so many different areas in which people excel, and we need people in all of those areas. We don't just need accountants. We need everyone, and we need people to do the things that they're passionate about. We need people to be able to go into fields that they care about and get degrees in things that they enjoy doing, or get certifications in things that they enjoy doing. That's what's going to build a strong economy, when we have people who are doing the things that make them happy and earning a living doing so.
Excellent. So your Ian wants to know, you're running in a plus 18 Republican district. So what's your strategy to win over almost 20% of those conservative voters?
I've actually already had some really enjoyable phone calls with people who've described themselves as lifelong Republicans. This is not just like a pitch that you hear. This is actually a true story. These I've actually had these conversations, and what it's really about is, and not party, but what the issues, what's impacting the people of this district right now. What do these people need? What do we need in order to thrive, in order to succeed, in order to grow, in order to feel comfortable starting families, committing to, changing a job, trying something new? What do we need? And when we approach it from that way, there there's a lot in common. So I think it's really about finding common ground and saying, listen, I this is what I'm going to do. We may not see eye to eye on everything, but these are the things that I value. These are the things that I think are really important, and these are the things that I'm going to fight for, because every person deserves real representation. I don't care who you are, where you come from, what you look like. We all deserve real representation. And that's not just Democrats, that's not just Republicans, that's not just voters, that's not just non-voters, it's everyone. And we need to make sure that our elected officials meet that standard of representing everyone and listening to everyone and fighting for everyone, not just the people who consistently vote for them. And when I've had conversations like that, it's actually been really nice. It's been well received, and I've gotten some really great responses and had some really great conversations, and people who started the conversation telling me that they've never voted for a Democrat, have never supported a Democrat, and weren't about to, and um, ended with, well, it looks like you're going to be my first. And that's really heartwarming to hear. I think it makes it difficult because it does take a lot of one-on-one interactions. But like I said, that's what I do all day long. I work with people all day long, and that's really what it's about. It's about listening to people, letting them know, look, I hear you, and I'm not going to forget it. I'm not going to forget what you're telling me. I'm going to make this happen, and you're going to do it with me.
I also think it's important for folks to recognize that there's a lot of polls that have Biden now within single digits in Tennessee. So those down ballot races are critically important. So Ramsey is curious. Would you support a Tennessee promise type of system as a nationwide sort of idea?
Rams, you have a lot of questions here. Um, Tennessee as a nationwide program, I would. I don't know if you want me to elaborate. Jill told me to cut these short.
Yeah, I think a little bit. I sort of you know what is that? Maybe not what does it look like, but maybe what sort of big picture. Let's say 1,000 feet sort of picture.
1,000 feet picture.
Why do you think that type of thing would work nationally?
You're talking about the like adult learning?
I think you can focus
I'm
on whatever
sorry.
area you would like.
I'm so sorry. I'm having trouble hearing you. One more
Oh, I'm
time.
sorry about that. I think any sort of area that you would like, sort of just that notion of a program that sort of, I think, aids folks
Yeah.
in some way.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Am I good? Okay.
So
Sorry, you
just
guys.
as,
I'm
you okay
experiencing.
there?
Yeah, I'm good. You said you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I shifted a cord around here. Um, yeah, with Tennessee Promise, I think that something like that would be nice to get us to the point where we do have accessible education for everyone. Um, but I think that could be expanded on. I think that we would need to look at how that translates on a national level instead of just one state. And I think that there might be several different ways to approach that. I I also think that we need to we need to look at other states. We need to look at other programs and how those work. But put simply, I think we need to ensure that people have access um, to a higher level education, to these 2 4 year degrees, and to these certification programs, and vocational schools. I think these are all equally important. But then to build on that as well, I think that we need to look at areas where we have people who may choose to work in a public sector, whether those are public defense attorneys, those might be public school teachers, those might be social workers, any of these, and more, and doctors who choose to work within the Medicare for All system, and making those even higher level. We're talking master's, PhD, MD, any of those programs um, covered as well when we have someone who commits to spending a certain amount of time within that public sector.
Excellent. So, what are your thoughts on gun control?
Well, sorry, you guys. I had a lot of caffeine today, so I'm staying hydrated here. Um, I think that we are seeing a lot of gun violence. I think that we need to really take some, again, very basic steps and basic measures to ensure that we are not being reckless with how we allow people to obtain firearms. I think that we need to have a national registry. I think we need to have universal background checks. I think we need to make sure that there are no loopholes. I think that we need to hold um, all people to a certain standard. We need to, stop having exemptions for people who maybe aren't traditional dealers, but who are selling or buying a lot of firearms, or moving them through. I think that we need to hold people in that standard, and I think the result is, or what we're trying to do here, isn't to take away people's guns. It's to remove guns from the hands of people who are a danger to themselves or society, and that's it.
I think it's also just important to give props where props are due. I mean, you did earn the Moms Demand Action gun sense. You are a gun sense candidate from Moms Demand
I
Action.
I am indeed, and I'm proud to have that distinction.
So I know I just asked, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask again. As folks are getting to know you a little bit better and getting to sort of find out where you stand on a lot of issues, more and more folks are going to want to get involved with your campaign. Again, how do they do that?
Well, like I said, I mean, you can definitely follow the run on social media, and that's Twitter, that's Facebook, that's Instagram, and that's just Meg for Congress, Meg number 4 Congress, on any of those. But you can also volunteer. You can reach out. You can connect with me on there as well. You can volunteer through our website. You can phone bank with us. Like I said, we have big group starting up and really digging in this week, and we would love to have even more of you. And this is big for us. This is really about um, a movement here. This is about making this work for all of us, taking a system that's currently working for the wealthy, and making it work for everyone. And we're seeing that. We're seeing people volunteer because they're just sick and they want to see change. And so if you want to join us that way, we definitely encourage you to. Um, like I said, if you want to donate to, there is a link to Act Blue on there, in the upper right hand corner of the website, and that's meg2020.com. And like Matt said, we're coming up on a really important fundraising deadline here, and so anything you can contribute is hugely appreciated. We can't do this alone, and I need support from everyone in this district. Anyone who can, whether it's a voice, whether it's a dollar, whether it's a vote, whether it's a retweet, any of those. Every bit of support is important here, and I really appreciate all of it, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight.
All right. So, Meg, it has been a pleasure to get to spend some time with you, to get to talk with you about issues that I know are on the minds of not only Tennesseans, but folks all over the country. Um, is there anything that you'd like to sort of say to folks before we go ahead and get out of here?
Was I supposed to have a line planned? You would tell me, right, Matt?
I would, I'm here for you. So I'm here for all of
That's good. Well, I mean, really, that's it. This is a really important race. I'm up against an incumbent, a five term Republican incumbent. He's voting in line with Trump like 98.8% of the time. He's doing a lot of damage behind the scenes, a lot of damage. So really, this this is an opportunity for serious change. This is a movement happening right here, right now. This is happening across the country. This is happening in local elections, in state elections, in federal elections like this one. These are huge. We have the primary on August 6th. So don't forget to get out and vote then. If you haven't registered to vote, get registered to vote. If your family and friends aren't registered to vote, get them registered to vote. All voices matter, regardless of who you vote for. Your voices matter. So I would really encourage you to ask anyone in your contact list, are you registered to vote? No matter where those people live. it's just taking care of each other, making sure that we're all exercising our rights.
Excellent. Well, Meg, it has been a pleasure. Folks listening, don't forget, go to meg2020.com. It's been a pleasure. I hope we get to do this again sometime soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.